I'm Sandeep. I think my beer belly does my introduction. I work for United Breweries, heading digital for Kingfisher and Heineken. Native for me, Ankit, simply put, it's obviously paid content, but obviously the content that aligns with the publisher's style and tone, and obviously is in a format which the publisher's audience is expected to receive. So that's what I would simply define native as. Why it's important? If you look at 2014, I think 2014 was the year of blogs. An article I read mentioned about 31 million plus blog users that were added. And India, given all your increasing penetration of internet, mobile driving it, has increasingly started consuming content, in a way it has never done before. And I was surprised to know that Indians, share the most content per day compared to other countries, which may, and unlike traditional marketing, here your audience has an audience on social, and that's what makes native a really promising proposition, because here is something that, when your audience shares, their audience to leverage and stuff like that, which makes native what it is, and makes it really lucrative.
Hi, Ren Buck from Taboola. I think that if we are trying to define native right now, first of all, it's going to be super tough. Second, I think the market is a little premature. We see a lot of natives around the world, and each publisher actually is defining it a little different. From my perspective, native is something that looks nature within the site, with no attribution, with no sponsor, with no promoting, and it has to be a specific content. Not every piece of content can be native. We have to be honest with ourselves. A couple of good examples of the last month will be Daily Mail, which started to use the native platform by Taboola, but it's actually, no one knows that it's by Taboola because there is no attribution, no promoting. But that's probably will be the leaders in the world, which is a couple of big publishers that will lead the native platform and content, and will show the rest what is that mean native. But if we were trying to define it by ourselves, so it's probably going to be something that look nature within the site.
Hello. Native, in my view, is content creation, content created for brands to build trust, credibility, and thought leadership for brands. And this could be done in multiple ways. I think I kind of talk about native and content marketing in similar tone. And I think some of native is very misunderstood as some article with a sponsored tag on it on a publisher website. Long before native was, seen as this, there are a lot of online brands like Crazy Egg and Kissmetrics and a lot of small analytics companies which even produce sales through a lot of native content placement in forums. A lot of administration forums are there. So native is essentially content created to create credibility, trust, thought leadership for brands.
Hi, Priya here. So I had a creative agency, Propaganda India, in the digital space, and it's interesting to hear native from, I've heard it from everyone's perspective. Our perspective is a little different. Native is uninterrupted. Native is as organic as it can be. But obviously there is an unsaid writ between the publisher and the brand that's going on behind it. And from a creative agency's point of view, it is very, very difficult because we're in the business of creating paid advertising for our clients all the time. How do you create content that still feels close to the platform, that still feels closer to the customer, and yet withhold your brand's credibility? That's really the challenge from a creative agency, that in how we'd like to define native is how creative can native get, and how creativity can really play a role in making native a part of content marketing in a much more better way.
Interesting. So I think let's focus more on the content side. So, but how is it different? Like, explain me, how is it different from advertorial? Do you think that native advertising is basically advertorial rebranding packaged for the digital world? How is it different from advertorials? We've had them around for a very long time. Probably we can start with Sandeep, yes.
See, advertorials in newspapers actually did not exist for a long time. And then there was some doubt in owners of publications that journalists are accepting kickbacks and writing articles. So then they created a methodology in which MediaNet kind of model for Times of India was there, wherein Delhi Times and some of the other publications would take in articles, and the money is actually paid to the company. But in some of those in none of those articles there is any angle of sponsorship or any mention that it is there. And later on, government came into the picture, and government actually asked all these publications to say that these are advertorials. So now they actually mention it. Now, native, like I think Rand said, it can't be defined in one particular way. Native has a huge scope within itself. The only big thing about native and content marketing, unlike an advertorial, is that I read a very good article on native in Huffington Post, and it kind of reflected my views. Everybody should not do native. That's very important. Unless you have some credibility and some value system, you should not go for native. All brands are not suited to go for native advertising. Unlike an advertorial where everybody says, hey, look, I got mentioned so many times. I just saw a presentation yesterday in which a person said we were featured in 15 articles in Times of India and Hindustan Times, and we actually got earned media of $65,000 because if you bought it. So some of those funny things are there, but native is not that. Native is very different.
No, but how is it different from your editorials? Is it, when we specifically talk about the sponsored content, how is it different from editorial? I think it's, if you look at it, it's essentially just the same content which would go into editorial. And by the way, the thing which you said, the government made it, the same thing IAB is doing now. Last month they came up with a thing in which they said you have to go out. So the guideline, a playbook to go with.
So I'll explain how. For example, we gave a solution to Hindustan Unilever a few years back when I was at Times. So when we spoke to HUL, and they sell a lot of women products, tendering to their anxieties. So women are very anxious about their beauty products and their skin, and kind of HUL and Unilever makes, I think, millions of dollars using those anxieties and selling them products, which we all know. So I try to talk about these zits, which women and men get, and men are more worried about these pimples and zits. So we try to create content on why do zits or pimples happen, what are the causes for it, how they can be removed by organic ways or by using some medicines. And the brand did not feature over there. So in native, you are trying to help a consumer solve a problem, or help consumer offer content just like you're offering in regular content on your site. And the brand then comes in later on that one of the options is to go for this particular product. Whereas I think advertorial is right there in your face, and some brand being pushed. I just saw on Valentine's Day Soha Ali Khan with her husband, I don't know, he's also an actor. And that guy was giving her a ring, and there was a big blow up of the ring and the name of the jeweler. Now that looks pretty cheap. That's not what native advertising is. So that's the difference.
I think that editorial content is totally different than native, and is in the matter of the fact that actually someone is managing native content for the publisher in order to bring the relevant native content to the relevant end user. And editorial is not the fact, is not that in that case. I also agree with Sandeep that native content is mainly branded, which is actually narrowing what is native content. And there is no question that native content will be part of the evolution of content marketing. It's just one piece of component. It's not really relevant to all kind of publisher. It's not that easy to sell native content. The market is not mature enough to say right now if it's going to be CPM model or CPC model. Who's going to create the content for native? Who is going to sell the native content? There are a lot of questions to put the market right now in a premature position in order to explore what will be native. But it's definitely not like editorial.
In my view, I think it's which side you look at it from. From publisher's side, obviously, when they look at it, for them it's editorial rebranding. because it's what they have been doing, and from the brand side, when we look at native, it's obviously evolution of content, because what goes into planning, something which should look native, which is a soft sell and doesn't put your product in your face, it's obviously evolution of content, because everything that is true with content marketing is true with native as well. When you work on native, be it, it needs to be integrated well, into the article. If it's an article that you are writing about, the timing needs to be right, topicality, the essence needs to be right, the format needs to be right. So I think when you look at it from the brand side, it's evolution of content. And I think you need to get the integration really right. One example, which comes to my head is something which I experienced a couple of months back, right, on BuzzFeed. So I played this quiz, which is how would you die in a Game of Thrones? Which again is something which is in the same format, quiz format, interactive format as BuzzFeed is known to. But obviously, Game of Thrones is so well integrated into it, and I would obviously play it. That's how native should be. It's all about soft selling and embedding yourself in the experience and creating.
So do you think that this is a new channel which has opened for content marketers, which they so far were ignoring, or?
Yeah, so it's so as we say it, it's being a part of the story, joining a story than creating one. So while the publishers are already there, how do you join without? And that's how I think native is born. So I think it's a new channel for us. Obviously, a new way of looking at content, and obviously a smarter way of looking at it without, forcefully pushing it down consumers' throat. Because key is not tricking the consumer. At the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like objectives are very important. What is your objective from client perspective? I don't think an HUL is expecting sales out of it. But there are certain software companies which are expecting sales out of it. So for example, there is a writer who will write for that software company on a searchengineland.com kind of website, and he'll write 5 areas where you can improve your search engine marketing, or
yes,
you can and then at the end he says that if you are facing these problems, then you can use our software. But the problem becomes when native advertising becomes native, for lack of better word, weirdness. The kind of briefs which we get are you make our phone, you write an article on our phone that it is the best phone under 10,000 rupees, and you put it on your homepage. You don't put sponsored on it, and you guarantee us 100,000 page views as well. No, that's not native advertising. Or I've got a brief to the tune that somebody's told me that why don't you go and interview that Reliance guy, and you make sure you ask him a question about us, and you make sure that he talks positively about it. Now that's not the kind of native advertising we can promise. Those are the challenges.
I think what native can actually do is help build categories in the online space with so many new services, new products, new users coming in. What native is doing to the online space is, yes, in some sense, it's starting with advertorial rebranding. But effectively, it is going to become the evolution of content marketing. It's easiest to start with advertorial rebranding because what it is doing is opening up newer ways. It's influencing behavior. There's so many new usage behaviors that customers need to know and understand, especially in the digital ecosystem. And that's really it is packaged in the form of native at this point in time. Definitely opening up channels. For a creative agency, I think the interesting part for us is to also think of native as how can you use native to actually create properties or asset bases for clients that they can leverage eventually, or brands that can leverage eventually. And that probably, yes, we were discussing a while back that it is premature for a market yet to get brands to understand that everything doesn't need to lead to a transaction, but over a period of time, you have to build acceptance, start getting people to follow you. How many pieces of columns that we follow today that we just like to read because it's been written by somebody, and it may or may not be influenced by a brand or not. There is room to create so much of this, and that's the channel that native is actually opening up. And it's a challenge for us also as a creative agency to work cohesively with both publishers and brands to effectively, creatively enable this space. It's very technologically driven now. There are publishers in place. But you need a group of people that understands brands and that understands technology to effectively leverage the true strength of what native can be for this country.
Now let's take a question about focus more from a consumer side. So the golden rule of advertising is not to deceive the customer, right? And with native, native is sort of blurring the line between advertorial and it's blurring the line between editorial or rather advertising and the editorial content, right? So with that, what we have issues like transparency and where publisher, I think consumers should know when the content is sponsored or paid for by an advertiser. A lot of issues around transparency and consumers basically wanting to know about what the reading is actually being paid by for someone, or is it actually coming out of the editorial? Do you think that there is a problem like this? Consumers, this is a problem with consumers. We're really interested to know about it, or is there a transparency issue at all?
See, there is, I mean, it depends how you are presenting it. Today we have a Taboola visit on our site, and there is a headline: 6 signs of a heart attack. So consumer, clicks on a headline, and consumer wants to know about that. It's not a misleading kind of situation. I think where it becomes a misleading kind of situation when native advertising is confused with PR or advertorial, that you put my brand. See, the process should be, what is my objective, and can the client have an actual real value? And let's talk about solving that problem or that particular value, and then bring in the brand.
So you're saying that it should be transparent, right?
See, we are putting sponsored on all native articles which we are doing. For example, we push brands. So if there is a mobile phone brand on BGR, which is our tech site, we push brands that, if you want to say positive things about you, we'll interview you. Rather than you trying to push us any kind of articles with a lot of adjectives about your brand out there. In an interview, you are talking adjectives about yourself, and then let the consumers believe whether those adjectives are right. But they still say that you put an article with adjectives in it. So here is where the challenge lies.
I think the challenge will be, by the way, by the audience. If the audience will push publishers to put to make it more transparent in terms of who's what, that's what will lead the market. It's not just about the publisher and what the decision will be taken over there. It's also about the audience.
Right. And do we include the questions Q&A in this time? Or so we can just maybe before jumping to questions, just one last thing about since native is a evolving, it's a evolving format. Is there anything which you'd like to add about how this is going to go forward from here? How it will evolve? What is the future of native advertising from here? Let's say we come back to this conference next year, same time. How the format would have changed, or if at all?
See, things keep changing in digital, there was a time when display used to be big. It's dying, an article on, in Business Insider mentioned about, how you are, the probability of you surviving a plane crash or winning a lottery is higher than you clicking a banner, which is hilarious, But to think of 5 years back when, display was at its peak, it's evolved. So I think digital and social as a, medium keeps evolving, and native is the new buzzword. But I agree with Sandeep, not everyone needs to do native, it's, there's some categories which seem, which go seamlessly with native. So it's choosing, brands need to be very...
I think everybody can do native.
Yeah.
They can't do the other way around.
No, I don't think so.
I think...
But a lot of brands, small or big today, money or no money, native is the first form of conversation that they can start. And if they have even some monies, and it can effectively scale, then why not native?
It's not about money. It's not about money. See,
so for the publisher I'll
forward you that article. See, that guy says, and interestingly, I know everybody believes he is a brand, even if he started yesterday. That article, that writer wrote very well. He said that when you start your business, you are far more transactional in nature. You become a brand after some time. And I completely believe in it. Till you are a brand, you have values to offer, you don't go native. That's my view.
I think that's interesting. So with this, I think we can just take one question because of the limited time. And of course, you can buttonhole all these speakers in the hallway or outside, because I think they're going to stick around for a while. So we'll probably, yes.
Don't have a question, I have a comment. I think at some point in time, regulation needs to look at the way native is being executed, because frankly, quite a bit of it is just cheating. We've had agencies contact us. I run a site called Media Nama. We've had agencies contact us, say that they want to buy a text ad, which is what we sell as native, and we say, you'll have to create the content. They want us to do it. We have a clear separation. That doesn't seem to work. And when we say it'll have a line that says this is an advertisement, they say they don't want it anymore. So I think at some point in time, this entire paid news issue is going to get a regulatory oversight, and the sooner the better, because it's getting really murky online right now.
Correct, correct. Makes sense.
So IAB right now is trying to put, there's no guidelines around it, right? But they've tried to put a playbook around it, but still, this, I agree.
My name is Rakesh Bhatia. We have been talking about native. To me, native is pure, unadulterated, basic content, which will appeal to just about anybody. And out of that, some marketing, some end result can be expected, but as you all agree, not in the shortest run, maybe in the long run. To me, native is purely unadulterated, pure, basic content which can be linked with, or which can be linked to anybody in the audience.
All right. And your question, sir? Do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to, whatever came to my mind as native.
All right. Since we're out of time, so I think we should. All right. Great. So we've got anybody with a question?
Hi, I'm Ram. Small question. Throughout the session, we have been talking about primarily the FMCG brands doing native, using native content marketing. However, my question is, how about the luxury brand that needs to instill trust? And does the audience, is audience there for, native content for the luxury brands? And how to use that?
Huge, actually. Luxury brands should invest into native because they have a lot of brand values, which they need to communicate to their users. And for luxury brands, people are paying for attributes rather than utilitarian attributes. I mean, attributes which are more brand-led, which people put up with their personal positioning. They're using certain perfume or going to a certain hotel. So I think luxury brands should heavily invest because they are a brand. The more brand attributes you have, the more you should invest in native. There's a question.
All right.
Maybe just speak a bit louder. I would repeat your question.
Understand how we can measure native content in a better way. That's one part of it. Would this also mean that you're pushing the onus back to the advertiser to create more engaging content therefore? Because you're saying, look, the metrics has changed. You can't put a companion banner and have a number of impressions there or number of clicks or number of views. It's more about engagement. It's more about virality. And therefore, the onus is back to the advertiser. So I think a lot, we all tend to speak a lot about native content, but where is the metric around it? How are we measuring that content is extremely important from my view.
So how do you measure native content?
So in terms of measurement, you should just need to implement the native platform by Taboola, and then you get all the measurement. But seriously, I don't think it's going to push back to the ads world. I think it's going to stay in the content level. You can measure everything over there, also in terms of clicks and conversion and stuff like this. But you have to remember that brands less care about conversion. So they do care only about brand awareness, about clicks, about engagement, and less about results and ROI positive.
So my question is, what's the metric there? I mean, what is the, how are we moving away from the conventional metric of display, and are we kind of looking at a new metric to kind of measure content marketing per se, since it's become an intrinsic part of my marketing mix now?
We didn't define yet native, so we definitely not define what is the measurements.
I think in general, if you see in the overall ecosystem, if you see additional increase in organic brand searches that go up while there is native content running around, if you have seen additional awareness and newer customers coming in from unknown channels into your branding and into your product. So it's up to the advertiser also to help define how additionally they can help measure this, provided we have some checks in place. But organic search is going up in general for the brand. If there's nothing else going on at that point in time, could be a great place to start.
You may have heard of this Fork Media native platform where the measurement is possible. He runs that company. See, I think, native objectives need to be very important. There are 5-6 different objectives of native. One of the big objectives of native and content marketing is a substitute of backlinking in search engine optimization. And you know, content marketing and native is used heavily by search engine optimization people today. So there the objective is how many quality links you get. Then there are sales objectives of various people. Then you see how many sales do you get. Then there are objectives of how many times your brand was visible. You know, so it depends upon objectives. It is very measurable. The only thing is that if FMCGs, consumer durables, or e-commerce companies think that it can generate sales in a short period of time, that's not going to happen.
If you compare CTR to CTR, obviously native would be much higher because of the nature of it.
Much.
And so you can't compare it. Actually, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think yes. So any other questions? Maybe can we take one more question?
Hi, this is Aman. I want to ask just one thing that does native advertising is just a fancy term for thought leadership, or is it something different? Because I think it's more close to thought leadership.
So thought leadership is one thing which you can achieve using native, right? Just one thing. And there are a host of other things which you can do. Even so, like you said, search engine general example, you can actually go out and do sales.
See, it's even about breaking perceptions. For example, I'm assuming, I hope if there's a Nestle guy, he doesn't mind my saying this. Say, Maggi noodles is considered as junk food by all mothers, including my wife, arguing with my 10-year-old that how much junk food you can have in a day. And Maggi has been trying to break that perception by bringing in atta noodles and bringing in those rotis while they show Maggi being cooked and stuff like that. So if they build some native content around how noodles are good and use a Z News, DNA India, Times of India article to show how Chinese do so well eating noodles, live long, healthily, from a credible publication, and put it on their own social media. So I think that's a good example. And I think NewsCred is doing a lot of good work in this, if you study. So wherein credible publication content is picked up and used by brands on their own social media, their own point of contact with the consumer.
That's a selective usage. In China, if you talk about, or Japan, if you talk about, it is the green tea which they consume, which is antioxidant, which is giving them value for the life, rather than the noodles.
No, I'm talking only about perception. I don't know why Chinese live longer. I don't even know whether they live longer.
Well, I can tell you, out of 10 top,
So-
highest 8 people, 7 are Japanese.
I think that's something interesting for you to take offline.
That's the next panel.
Great.
So you cannot correlate with one part, actually, whether it is attributed to something else.
No, I'm just saying that if there's a good article for Maggi in Times of India, they should use it.
Well, it is not directly attributed to the noodles.
Suppose it is.
Well, you can create it to look like the facts.
All right. So I think if you guys want, you can take this offline, sir. So great. Thank you so much for being a great audience, and I'd like to thank all the panelists for sharing their thought and the knowledge with us today.